Darcy, I've just heard word from Mr. Harper that he was called away to the bedside of a sick friend. He sent me these flowers. It's a good thing he did. I don't approve of young men refusing dinner invitations at the very last moment.
I will put them in water, Miss Pringle.
Ah, it's such a shame. After you set the table so beautifully. Ah, and it's getting so late. Anyone might come any minute. How's Cook?
Cook is in a temper, ma'am, as always.
I'm glad to hear it. She's like an actress. The better the temper, the better the performance. As long as she serves us a good dinner, I don't care how much she swears. The rest of you can just stay out of her way. Where's Gustav?
I'm sorry to have to say it, ma'am, but there's such an awful blizzard out. He's sweeping off the sidewalk.
Oh, dear me, yes. I should have ordered an awning. But who expected a storm like this?
Here are the place cards, Mother, and the diagram. Shall I put them around?
Yes, dear. Elaine, I'm going up to look after your father. He's so careless with his ties. Remove one plate, Darcy.
Remove one plate, ma'am? Oh, ma'am, it is sure you wouldn't sit down with 13.
13? Why, you're right, 13. We can never sit down with 13. Oh, that's all due to Mr. Harper's negligence. Sick friend, nothing. He's just one of those careless men who never answer their invitations in time. His flowers indeed do make me forgive him. But now look at the trouble he's put me to. 13. I wonder, when could I get to come last minute? Quick, Elaine, help me think.
There's always Uncle George.
Oh, he never opens his head.
Mr. Morgan, ma'am? He always tells a joke or two.
Why, yes, Darcy, that's clever. Hello, Central? Lakeview 5971, at once, please. Elaine, dear, your hair's much too tight. Pull it out. Pull it out. Mr. Morgan's well? This is Mrs. Pringle speaking. From across the street, yes. When Mr. Morgan comes in, tell him to call me up right away. I want him to dine with us. In about 10 minutes. You expect him? Have him call me right away. Now, if he shouldn't get it, then what'll I do?
Well, Mother, I don't have to be at the table. It's your party anyway, and everyone's older than I am or married.
Didn't I put you next to Oliver Farnsworth? Millions. He's worth millions.
Well, he won't be giving me any.
Can't he marry you? Aren't you going to try to make a good match for yourself? I fling every eligible man I can at your head. Can't you finish the rest yourself?
It's no use, Mother. You're trying to marry me off to anyone as important as he is. He frightens me to death. I lose my tongue. I'm as afraid of him as I'd be of the Prince of Wales.
The Prince of Wales. Oh, what I wouldn't give to have the Prince of Wales in my house. New York has lost its heart to him. I was just telling Mr. Farnsworth yesterday. I'd give anything to have the Prince here. I would establish my social position for life. And I've such a reputation of being a wonderful hostess. Dear me, sir. Hello, Mrs. Sedgwick? Yes, this is Mrs. Pringle. What? No. Oh, caught in a snowdrift. Can't get another car. Good, the widow can't come. That leaves us 12. Remove 2 plates, Darcy. Oh, that's a shame. I'm heartbroken. Oh, my dear, how can we get along without you? But have you really tried? Oh, I'm reduced to tears. Oh, goodbye, dear. Well, I'm glad she dropped out. Central, give me Lakeview 5971. Darcy with 2 less. We can save 2 cocktails and at least 4 glasses of champagne. Has Mr. Morgan come in yet? Well, don't give him the message I telephoned before about crossing the street to Mrs. Pringle's for dinner. It's too late. Do you understand? Well, anyway, I've invited Clem, returned my indebtedness, and saved my champagne besides.
The liquor's getting low, ma'am. With entertaining them so much.
But wait, Mother, if you only have 12 people, Father can't sit at the head of the table.
But he has to sit at the head. Oh, it looks too undignified when the man of the house is pushed to the side.
There's no other way. There must be a woman at each end.
How absurd, I always forget. 12 is an impossible number. I don't want to give any of these women the honor. Mrs. Darby, such a cat. And Mrs. Conley? Darcy, answer it.
Hello? Miss Pringle's residence? A message? Yes, sir. What, sir? Mr. Darby? The doctor says your baby has the chicken pox?
Chicken pox? Elaine!
Mother!
Yes, sir. Mr. Darby sent his apologies, but owing to the contagious disease, Mr. and Mrs. Darby feel obligated to regret, and also their house guests, Mr. and Mrs. Fleetwood.
That's 4 out.
Then you're only 8. Quick, the plates, Darcy.
We can invite last minute.
The Hatwoods?
They don't serve drinks when they entertain. I can't afford to invite them to drink mine.
The Greens?
She's not interesting enough.
Mr. Conley?
He never makes a dinner call, even after all the times I have invited him.
Hester Longley?
Not at the same table as you and Oliver Farnsworth. She's far too pretty, too clever.
Where's our book? The Tuppers.
The Tuppers! Good heavens, Elaine, 6 in the family.
That leaves us with 14.
Then your father can sit at the head.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, try then. I'll rush and tell your father to hold up the drawing room.
Okay. Ridgeway 9325? This is Elaine Pringle. What Tupper am I speaking to? Oh, Ella, hello. I hope you haven't finished your dinner. We had a party arranged here, and at the last moment, everybody's been dropping out. The blizzard. Can't you flock your family around the corner and eat with us? Mother and I thought we knew you well enough to call you like this at the 7th hour. You would? Oh, fine. 6 more plates, Darcy. What? Oh, well. But... Darcy, get Mother quick. Yes. Yes, of course. Yeah, why, certainly. Yes, my dear, all right. Oh, great Caesar, now what have I done?
What's the matter, Elaine? What is it?
I've done it. I've just done it, but I couldn't get out of it. You weren't here, and you know I always lose my head and bungle things.
But what? Don't keep us waiting like this. What is it?
I invited Ella and the family, and she accepted, and then she said they had 2 house guests, and would it be all right if they came? And of course I said yes, and now we're 16.
16? But ma'am, the table is not that long.
Elaine, that's just like you. No tact, no worldly wisdom. If I'd been at the phone, I'd have politely said that my table can only...
But you weren't at the phone. You ought to attend to such messages yourself, you know. I always lose my head.
But the dishes, ma'am, we only have 14 squaws.
I won't eat any.
But I must not be disgraced. We'll have to make the best of it. And insert another board.
But Mother, I needn't sit at the table.
You're going to sit next to Oliver Farnsworth. They don't wish to hear another word about it.
But can't we squeeze them in closer without all the work of adding another board? If I move the plates and the chairs closer...
Have you forgotten that Mr. Tupper weighs something like 250 pounds? And that Mrs. Conley has no waistline? It can't be done!
Cookie's in a rage, ma'am. She says she has only prepared for 15.
Well, I can't help it. She'll have to prepare for 16. Tell her to open cans of soup and open cans of vegetables.
But the ice cream forms and the gelatin molds.
I'll pretend I don't like them.
And I'll pretend I'm on a diet.
But I really wouldn't have to be at the table.
Be still! The telephone. Now what? Don't answer it. It's driving me mad. Hello? Yes? This is Mrs. Pringle? Oh, yes. Jessica? What? The blizzard. You're cold. Oh, too dangerous. Oh, Jessica, you poor dear. Yes, your husband's right. It would be foolhardy. Put on a mustard plaster. Go to bed. Oh, so sorry. There. Oh, that's wonderful. Now we're just 14.
But the cards are all wrong. Only 6 are coming who were invited originally. You'll have to make another diagram. How do you want them seated?
I'll make a new diagram.
Here are some fresh cards.
Oh, what a mess! I spent hours over that diagram. So much depends upon having the guests seated harmoniously. Oh, there's the front doorbell. Darcy, I told Annie to get it for you. But go peek into the drawing room and tell me who it is. You murderous instrument! Oh, what have you to say? Now! Hello? Who? Mr. Farnsworth? Mr. Oliver Farnsworth? No. You're his secretary? His what? Instructed you to make his excuses. He had to leave for Boston at once on very important business. Oh. How dare he? How dare he? At the last moment like this! No regard for a hostess's feelings. No regard for the efforts she goes to provide an evening's enjoyment. And such a good dinner I had planned. But he promised he would come. Business. I don't believe it. He didn't want to exert himself. Was afraid of freezing in the blizzard. As if he didn't have half a dozen limousines to carry him to the door. Selfishness, downright rudeness. And worth millions. Just a match for you, Elaine. I was bound you should meet him and sit next to him at the table. Now I don't know when I can give you another chance like that again. I'm perfectly furious. I will never speak to him again. I won't be treated that way.
But perhaps he really did have business and was called away.
And I, one of the most important hostesses in this city. People clamoring to receive my invitation. All my affairs are a success. I insist that they shall be. I can't bear a failure. And he was my most important guest. So important financially. Every other man considers it an honor to meet him. And now not coming. I'm furious! Furious! It's all this damnable blizzard!
Well, now I will have to stay away from the table. His not coming makes us 13 again.
Go to bed! Go up to the nursery. I'll send you milk and crackers.
But Mother, it's not my fault that he had business out of town.
Oh, yes, it is. If you would just perk up a bit and not be so timid and make something of yourself, he would have heard of your attractions from other men and be curious to meet you himself. Oh, what a family I have. No one to help me with my affairs. Oh, go to bed. I certainly won't sit down to 13. Go to bed. Get out of my sight.
It was Mr. Morgan, ma'am.
Mr. Morgan? But I telephoned his maid to tell him not to come.
He did not receive the second message, ma'am, but I heard him explaining to Mr. Pringle how happy he was to receive your telephone invitation.
That makes you 13 again, unless you don't want me to go to bed.
Of course I don't want you to go to bed. We're back to where we started. 14, Darcy.
I will get the cocktail ready, ma'am. Annie told me there are several cars making their way to Snow. It is late now, and Cook is swearing about the dinner getting too dry.
I won't answer it.
I should say not. Hello? What is it? Yes. Mrs. Tupper, yes. But now you must come. We're prepared for you, yes, for 8 of you. Your daughter told my daughter about your house guests, and we are delighted to have them. But now we're set for you. Every plate is set. Oh, but your daughter was quite right. Of course my daughter has authority to invite the guests. 8 isn't a big number at all. There's room. But I beg of you. But my dear, you are not imposing. Oh, how foolish of you to take that stand, my dear. Why? Well, what do you think about that? Mrs. Tupper is perfectly furious at Ella for telling you about the house guests and says Ella has no tact. That nothing would induce her to bring 8 when we invited 6, so she's leaving Ella and Henry at home. Only 6 are coming. Remove 2 plates, Darcy. We're 12 after all.
But if you leave it at 12, Father can't sit at the end.
Oh, I shall go mad! I'll never entertain again. Never, never! People ought to know whether they're coming or not, but they accept and regret and accept they drive me wild. This is my last dinner party, my very last. A fiasco, an utter fiasco. A haphazard crowd hurried together when I had planned everything so beautifully. Now how shall I seat them? How shall I seat them? If I put Mr. Tupper here and Mrs. Morgan there, then Mrs. Tupper is going to have to sit next to her husband. And if I put Mr. Morgan there, oh, it's impossible! I might as well put their names in a hat and draw them out at random. I'm through with society, with parties, with friends. I wipe my slate clean. They'll miss my entertainments. They'll wish they had been more considerate after this. I'm going to leave for myself. I'm going to be selfish and hard and unsociable. Drink my liquor myself instead of offering it gratis to the whole town. I'm through with men like Oliver Farnsworth. I don't care how rich they are, how important they are. They're nothing without courtesy and consideration. Business. Nonsense. Didn't want to come. Didn't want to meet a sweet, pretty girl. Didn't want to marry her. Well, he's not good enough for you. Don't you marry him. Don't you dare marry him. I won't let you marry him, do you hear? If you tried to elope or anything like that, I'd break it off. Yes, I would. Oliver Farnsworth is beneath my recognition. He is beneath my notice. I hate Oliver Farnsworth.
A note from Mr. Farnsworth, ma'am.
A note from Mr. Farnsworth?
Yes, ma'am. There are 2 strange gentlemen in the lower hall. They presented this letter. He said he was the secretary. All the other guests are upstairs in the drawing room, ma'am. I counted 12, including you, Mr. Pringle, and Miss Lane. But the 2 gentlemen downstairs are waiting for your answer, ma'am. The one gentleman's face looked very familiar, but I just can't place him, ma'am. Although I'm sure I have seen him somewhere.
Seen him somewhere? Oh my goodness! Elaine! It's the Prince of Wales!
The secretary said you got off the telephone for the central disconnected you. He was about to tell you that Mr. Farnsworth knew that the blizzard had prevented His Highness from keeping an engagement way uptown.
The Prince of Wales, sitting in my lower hall, waiting for me to ask him to dinner.
But then we'll be 13 again.
There's the secretary, miss. He is his bodyguard.
Certainly, the secretary. Elaine, we shall be 14 at dinner. Serve the cocktails, Darcy. The guests may sit anywhere they want. I shall bring the prince in with me.
But Mother, wasn't it nice of Oliver Farnsworth to send a prince in his place?
Didn't I always say that Oliver Farnsworth was the most considerate of men?
I think I shall like Mr. Farnsworth.
silly child. It's too late to like Mr. Farnsworth. It's time now to like the prince. I always manage somehow to be the most successful of hostesses. Oh, thank God for the blizzard.